Hello people off the internet. Today we're in Port Stewart. No we're not, Portrush. That's how mad it gets when you're just constantly travelling. Look at the view behind me. Isn't it just glorious? Bloody freezing now. One of the problems we're having now that we're living in this thing full time is power. As you already know, or don't know if you've never met me before, on my blog I've wrote about the fact that we have upgraded our solar. So we spent the better part of 3 years with 100 watts of solar power. A couple of months ago I invested in 300 watts of additional solar power, and I'll be honest, it hasn't changed a blind bloody thing, because we're only getting probably, let's say, 6-7 hours of sunlight. It is December the, checks watch, wake up watch, 16th. So we're 10 days, no, wait, what day is it now? We are 5 days away from the longest, darkest day. And then that's officially winter starting. It will then change to the sun slowly setting later, a minute a day probably for a wee while. Battling power is not just leisure battery issues. Some of you will know we also work from the van. Digital nomads. That's kind of what the whole thing's about. Working digitally from anywhere. Can't work from anywhere if you can't power your laptops. Now, one of the other problems that we have is Mrs. M has 2 laptops because her systems currently don't allow for one app to work on the other laptop. I don't know what the hell that's all about. I've been a big fan of the Jackery 1000 since we bought it 4 years ago. We bought it for my 50th when we travelled to Scotland. And that was our plan. Travel around, do the Scotland thing, and be able to work from there. Anyway, back to what I was saying, the Jackery. I've had that Jackery 1000 for 4 years, and it's been fantastic. The only thing I have had an issue with is one of the USB sockets got damaged. Doesn't work. So I do have 2 USB-Cs on there and a USB-A, still works, and we've got the 2 sockets. Mrs. M has procured the 2 sockets mostly, and because the Jackery's 4 years old, it's time for a change, unfortunately. Let me just stop that camera moving around for a second. Last night we made the decision, which I'm quite shocked at because Mrs. M's usually a bit of a tight ass. We decided we're going to buy the DJI Power 2000.
With a powerful sidekick covering your back, you'll tackle any challenge. Introducing DJI Power 2000. With 1800 watt fast charging capability, it can be fully charged by grid power in just 90 minutes.
And we ordered it last night because there's a 33% discount or something like that, 31, 33, I don't care. But it normally retails for about 1100 quid, and they're doing it for 799, which in anybody's book is 800 quid. And it'll be here next week. It's got 4 sockets on it. It's got 4 USB-Cs and 4 USB standards on there. So that's what we're going with because we need it. Oh, it's 1 degree out here, by the way, so I'm really punishing myself to make this video. But power is the bane of anybody's life when they're living in a motorhome or a camper or a car, well, not caravans because you're usually plugged up on sites, but if you're living on the road like we are and we don't hook up, we just don't, it's just not our thing. I made a poll on Facebook, and I'll put a link to the group if you're not already a member of it, but I made a Facebook post on how many people or how many sites people have used in the past 12 months. And a lot of people just plug in all the time, and you're in a motorhome. I don't get it. I honestly don't get it. We never plug in. In fact, I'll tell you, well, I'll say that's a lie. We've plugged in twice this year, and I was under duress, okay? Because friends of ours, we did a Scotland tour, and they, if they can, they will plug in. Probably power-based, because one of them, Marty's van's old as shit, and it's probably just got 1 leisure battery in there. And we've only got 2, so we're not doing any better. And then they're dying at night, because they have to start working about 3:30, these leisure batteries, because they're not getting solar, so they're completely tied obviously to the sun, and then they're working from 3:30 onwards until about 9 o'clock, so they're always dying. But we still refuse to plug in. A lot of people just travel to plug in somewhere. I don't get it. That's kind of defeats the purpose. We wild camp everywhere. Am I the unusual one? I don't get it. But anyway, yeah, so we're now waiting That's my latest thing. We're gonna be just watching the delivery status and the tracking for this DJI Power 2000 watt generator. Is it a generator? No, it's just a massive power bank. We drove for 45 minutes yesterday to power the Jackery via our inverter, and it went from 0 to 13%. That's how old this is. Now, I do know Jackery have created version 2 of their 1000 watt battery bank, but no, for an extra 100 quid or 200 quid, we've doubled our battery capacity in the post. Anyway, Portrush, you've gotta love it. It is just gorgeous, even in the dead of winter, which it is now. I mean, what's not to love? I love the sea. We came here, well, we tried to get here on Saturday. Mrs. M said, no, we've got plenty of gas. I was in London all week, so I had no clue how much gas she was using. She said it was only on for half an hour. Lies. So we had to go and find a place that did flow gas, and the town just started getting really, really busy on Saturday evening, and we just lost our prime parking spot where we've returned to now. So we spent 2 nights here, Springwell Forest Park. It's fair to say that we spend a lot of time here. Now, the reason for that is, just look at it. We walk the dogs here. There's just an amazing sort of walk track. I think originally, I mean, there are road markings here. I don't know the history of this particular area, but it wouldn't surprise me if this was an old direct road from Limavady to Coleraine. The reason I say that, as I said, road markings. Can't show you them today. Everything's clattered in frost. I wrote in a blog post and probably referenced it in other videos. We used to come here quite a bit a couple of years ago, and the reason why we loved it is, I mean, the road, I don't know if you can see the traffic, the road is over there. It's about 200 meters away. It's quite busy during the day, it's quite loud. At night, barely anything. And the reason we used to come here was great signal and seclusion. It's just a near a forest. And then about 1.5 years ago, we started coming back again because we were fair weather motorhomers. Like the vast majority of you out there, probably have a camper van or a motorhome and you use it the weekends. We were the same. Family commitments, young kids, the whole thing. They're a bit older now. They're a bit more independent. The youngest is turning 18 in a couple of weeks. When we came back about 1.5 years ago for a weekend, couldn't get a signal. I don't know what in the hell happened. In the van we had O2, EE and Vodafone, and between the 3 networks couldn't get anything. And then we were on some little week when we started living in the motorhome. We were traveling a lot further, and one of the problems we had then was just network coverage. Again, we were parking up in beautiful spots, free from height restrictions, beautiful locations, lovely to walk the dogs, spend time there. No signal. So we bit the bullet. I fitted the Starlink and it has unlocked everywhere. And I mean everywhere. If you don't have Starlink, you really need to question your life choices, especially if you live in a motorhome. Now, I replaced the aerial, took that apart. We don't use it. Why would you? Everything's streaming nowadays. I don't have a TV license because we only watch on demand and streaming services. So we did that. We got rid of the aerial, put the Starlink on, and that meant we could come back here. Oh, I'm in the shade. It's freezing. Let's get out the shade. Once we've got the Starlink, we started coming back to Springwell Forest Park. There's probably about 5 or 6 spots here for motorhomes. Actually, I would say worse for wear. A little bit of drink was on board, won't tell a lie. Ordered a Just Eat, and he managed to find me here in the woods, which was great. So the burger was shite, but anyway, I did manage to get a takeaway here. Winter problems. 400 watts on the roof, not touching the sides. I mean, we're getting a bit of sunlight right now because it's unusually clear, and we had fog all last night and wind, and that's cleared, but these days are rare. So it's either driving or hook up. And we're not hooking up. Bugger that. I just hate paying fees when the whole purpose of the motorhome was to live free, off systems. Be free, man. And our weekly spend is probably around 200, 250. Now, that's not what it costs to live in a motorhome, let's be honest. I might actually, the next video I might do what it costs to live in a motorhome full-time in Northern Ireland. It's quite surprisingly cheap. Would I recommend living in a motorhome during the winter? Yes. Yes. And I'll tell you for why. We now live everywhere, and it's just given us so much more freedom. But again, the only restriction really that we're seeing at the moment is the winter battery issue, and we're all facing it. Unless you've got the big LiPos and the Victrons and all that sort of MPPT controllers, that's big money. I spent probably about 600, 700 quid this year upgrading the leisure batteries, because we had a starter battery as a leisure battery, which was weird. I've upgraded all of that, and it's still given us about a day's worth of power. Now, we do drive a lot, or just run the engines for a bit. I can run the engine for half an hour, and that's the AGMs loaded again. As of next week, when we get the DJI Power station, I'll be running the engine or driving around for an hour and a bit, which is great because it gives me an excuse to go somewhere new and not just hang around in one spot. Mrs. M loves the sea. I love the sea. I love the freedom it gives us, and I would highly recommend that if you're in a position to do this, go for it. We always planned on doing this, but when we retired, my parents died at 56, 57 years old. I'm 53, 54 coming. I might not see retirement if I look at my family history. We don't do very well. The longest relative I'm aware of was my Uncle Raymond, and he died at 72. So if the average age of retirement now is 66, 67, that would give me 5 years, if I'm lucky, to retire and live my life. No, I'm doing it now. I'm not going to wait to live my life. Yeah, I still work, but I love my job. And if I wasn't doing this, I'd be doing something equally as creative and fun. I'm not going to do the office life anymore. COVID has changed the mindset. I mean, there is a shift now to go back to the office, and that's primarily due to people, business owners having property that are sitting vacant and they can't sell because nobody wants to buy property. I'm not going to fall slave to that. I love where I work. My employers are a remote first employer. There's hundreds of thousands of remote jobs out there, and I would easily slip into another one. I'll just continue what I'm doing with my own website, which is writing blogs, making videos, and selling merch, where I make some modicum of income. Talking about my website, if you want to keep abreast of what I'm up to, I would highly recommend you subscribe to that. There's a link down below. Drop your email. I'll send you a couple of emails a month, a blog, a video link, maybe a little hint at some merch that you might like. And that's the truest way of staying in touch, because you might come across the video and never see me again, because that's just how the algorithms work. Whereas if you are interested in seeing my content, then drop us an email address and you'll get a little email on a Sunday when you wake up. And if you're in your van, it'll give you something to look at, and then look outside. Right, I'm going to move on to the next spot. Need the bathroom. We've already emptied our tanks in Portrush, so they're fresh, ready to go again. And I'll see you in a minute. I don't know where that will be. Haven't decided yet.